Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the course of this video lesson, I'll be solving different practice questions that cut across different topics in biology. Now let's get into the first practice question, and it says, all living organisms, we were given options. How do we solve this question? It is extremely very easy. Before I choose the correct answer to this question, we have to analyze each of the options. Now, let's read the question again. And it says, all living organisms. So all of these options are options that describes the characteristics of all living organisms. Hold on. Before we actually even go further, we have to understand what living organisms are. Now, from the word living organisms, they are organisms that have life in them, and they are broadly divided into three major groups. Listen carefully. Living organisms are broadly divided into three major groups, which are number one, plants. Plant is one group of the living organism. Number two, animals. And the last group, they are called microbes, or we can as well call them microorganisms. So if we want to call them microbes, we'll call them microorganisms. So you've seen that we've established that all living organisms are divided broadly into three groups, which are plants, animals, and microorganisms. What are microorganisms? Microorganisms are organisms that cannot be seen with the naked eyes. To view or to see microorganism, we use an instrument called the microscope. So moving further, you can see that I said that these are all the major living organisms. So all of these options are characteristics of these organisms. So let's now read the question properly again and analyze the question. Now listen. Let's say, for instance, we are reading the question from here down to option A. Let's see how that sounds. So it says, all living organisms photosynthesize. Is that true? That is not true. First of all, before we actually even say it's not true, we have to know where this word photosynthesize is from. And from the look of this, photosynthesize actually came from a word or a process called photosynthesis. And what is this photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is simply the process whereby plants, specifically green plants, manufacture their own food with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll. If you heard what I said carefully, I said that photosynthesis is the process whereby plants. So if you observe, the word photosynthesize is only applicable to plants and not animals or microbes. So now, do all living organisms photosynthesize? No, all living organisms do not photosynthesize. So this option A is already out because it is only applicable to plants. So let's move further and read the question down to option B, and let's see how that sounds as well. So it says, all living organisms respire. Is that true? That sounds true. Listen. Now, from the word respire, it came from a process called respiration. So the question we ask ourselves, what is this respiration all about? It has to do with the process whereby organisms in general, not just plants, are seen in photosynthesis. Organisms in general produce energy, and the energy currency of living organism is called ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. Be it plants, animals, or even microbes, they produce energy by breaking down nutrients. Are you there? Now, it's more, if you observe what I said, respiration has to do with the process whereby organisms in general. So actually, the answer to question 1 is respire. All living organisms actually respire. They actually produce energy by breaking down food nutrients. And one of the sole aim for respiration is for number one, growth. Organisms respire to grow in size. Organisms also respire to reproduce. And I believe you know that plants grows, animals grows, microbes grows, even reproduction, they also undergo reproduction as well. So these are the sole aim for what now this respiration as a process. So you can now see that all living organisms actually respire. So if we were to even talk about option C, all living organisms move, is that true? No. Plants do not move. But if you look deep into this concept of, all living organisms move, you see that sometimes plant moves, but it is just parts of their body that actually moves, not just the plant moves from one position to another. Because when plants actually moves their body parts, that is called tropism. It is a type of movement. Do you understand? But that is what should be the answer. If you actually look at it on the surface level, plants do not move. So all living organisms actually do not move. So for option D, which is feed, all living organisms feed, is not true as well. Because when we look at feed, it has to do with, this organism taking this food from external source. You taking it and put this food into your mouth. That's what the word feed here means in this context. Are you there? So we know that plants actually get their nutrients from the soil. You understand? But all organisms actually do not feed. So the answer to this question becomes respiration, because all organisms actually respire. All organisms actually undergo the process respiration. I believe you are following. It is very easy. So if you find my video lessons helpful, make sure you click on the subscribe button to my channel. Also share my videos with your friends, because it will help you all improve greatly. Let's get into the next practice question, and it says, Amoeba moves by means of. So what this question is asking what is the locomotory organelle that amoeba moves by. Amoeba is an organism. It belongs to the kingdom Protista, specifically a protozoa. On general classification, we have five kingdoms. We have the kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and Animalia. So this amoeba we just saw belongs to the kingdom Protista. And the kingdom Protista is divided into two major groups, which are the protozoa and also the protophyta. From the word protozoa, they are animal-like protistas, or we can as well call them animal-like protists. But from the word protophytas, they are plant-like protists. Do you understand? So we can see now that amoeba belongs to the kingdom Protista, and amoeba as an organism moves by an organelle called the pseudopodia. This must be noted. Pseudopodia is also called the first feet seen in amoeba. Are you there? So the answer to this question becomes option C. This must be noted. Amoeba do not move by flagella. Amoeba do not move by the cilia. Also, amoeba don't move by what we call the setae. Organisms that moves by flagella, they include Euglena, they include Climadomonas. Are you there? But organisms that moves by cilia, they include Paramecium. Organisms that moves by setae, they are majorly the annelids. Are you there? All those worms like the likes of earthworm. So let's get into the next practice question. The question says, Secchi-Dix is used in the determination of. What do we use Secchi-Dix to do? Secchi-Dix is an instrument used for determination of something, and it is called turbidity. Are you there? It is not rainfall, it is not tides, it is not waves. The instrument used to measure rainfall is simply called rain gauge. Are you there? Now, moving further, we have to understand the topic to which this question is from, which is question number 3, and it's from the topic in biology called ecology, ecological management. Do you understand? So we have to know that, ecology has to do with the study of organisms in relation to their environment. That is why ecology is also called environmental biology. Ecology is divided into different groups. You have the likes of horticology and as well as what we call synecology. But you must understand that in ecology, it has to do with the study of organisms in relation to where they can live, in relation to their environment. And also you must know that in ecology there is a system that must be noted, and it's called the ecosystem. This ecosystem is a self-supporting system that relates two components together, which are the biotic components and as well as the abiotic components. What are the biotic components? The biotic components are those components of the ecosystem that have life in them. And from the word biotic, it includes plants, animals, and even decomposers. But for the abiotic, they don't have life in them. So all of these things mentioned, rainfall, turbidity, they are all the abiotic components of the ecosystem. They also affect how organisms live in a particular habitat. I believe you are following. Habitat is simply where the organism stays. Are you there? But remember, habitat is different from what we call niche. Don't mistake the two. Niche is actually the confined place or part in an habitat where the organism actually stays. If you are asked, what's the habitat of tapeworm in humans? You simply say that tapeworm stays in the alimentary canal. But to be specific, what is the niche of tapeworm in the human body? You say it is called the intestine. So you can see that niche specifies the location of that organism. Are you there? So all this must be noted. So you can see that rainfall, turbidity, there are so many. We have wind speed, wind direction. They are all part of the abiotic components of the ecosystem. Are you there? Like for wind speed, it is measured by an instrument called anemometer. But for wind direction, it is measured by an instrument called wind vane. I believe you are following. Don't mistake the two. So let's get into the next practice question. And it says, the carrier of the hereditary character in plants and animals is the dash. This question is so much very easy. When you hear hereditary characters, these are characters that are transmitted from parents to offsprings. Are you there? From parents to their children. These characters include physical features. Are you there? So now they're not asking us. So if you observe, they now said that the carrier of this hereditary character in a cell, be it plant cell, animal cells, what carries the hereditary character? It's simple. That is why in the topic heredity, you must understand here that the basic unit of heredity is simply called gene. Are you there? As the basic unit of life is called cell, as the basic unit of the kidney is called the nephron. Are you there? So the basic unit of heredity is called gene. Without that gene, there will not be hereditary. Are you there? There will not be the transmission of what? Those characters from parents to offsprings. So you can see that gene is extremely very important. So the answer to question 4 becomes option C. It is not cell, because cell is basically the organism, like is where the organism starts from. I believe you know that cells houses all of these organelles. The cell is the basic unit of life. Inside the cell, we have organelles, and these organelles are inside what we call the cytoplasm. Are you there? So for nucleus, it can be nucleus, it can be the chloroplast. I'm going to analyze both the nucleus and the chloroplast so you understand the difference. Now, moving further on the nucleus, you must understand here that the nucleus basically controls all the cell processes. Yes, it does that. And you must know here that nucleus houses or covers what we call DNA in a cell. Are you there? DNA is called the deoxyribonucleic acid. Inside this DNA, that's where we have the chromosome. And inside the chromosome, that's where we have the gene. So I know you want to say here that Nucleus also partake in what we call transfer of hereditary material. Yes, it does, but the specific part in a cell that actually does that is the gene. Though the gene is found inside the chromosome and the chromosome is found inside the DNA and the DNA is found inside the nucleus, but you can't say questions like this, you can't just go for the nucleus. Let's say, for instance, we don't have gene here, that's when you go for what? Nucleus. But since there is gene, which is the basic unit of heredity, then you go for gene. It can't be the chloroplast because the chloroplast produces a pigment called the chlorophyll pigment. And chlorophyll pigment is for the process which is called photosynthesis, as explained above, which is the process whereby green plants produce their own food with the help of sunlight and these pigment. So let's get into the next practice question, which is question number 5, and it says, which one of the following options is not true for mucor or rhizopus? Wow, this question is so much very easy. Before we analyze this question, we have to know where mucor, also called rhizopus, actually is coming from. Now, you must know here that, remember I said that we have kingdom of classification. We have 5 major kingdoms, which are kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plants, and kingdom Animalia. So you must understand here that mucor or rhizopus belongs to the kingdom Fungi. Are you there? And this is why it is important for you to understand the characteristics of these organisms which belongs to the kingdom Fungi on general basis. You must understand here that fungi, first of all, they are non-chlorophyllous. So this mucor, also called rhizopus, is a fungi, all right? And what did I just say? They are non-chlorophyllous, meaning that they don't have chlorophyll. And also, you must know here that they are heterotrophic in nature. Since they don't have chlorophyll, which helps them to produce their own food, which is one of the major characteristics of plants, this is why plants in general are autotrophic. But here, fungi, they are heterotrophic. Why? Because they don't have the chlorophyll pigment. For you to be heterotrophic, it means that you depend on already made food. And this is one of the characteristics of fungi. So we have said 2 things about fungi. Number 1, they are non-chlorophyllous. Number 2, they are heterotrophic. It's from them being non-chlorophyllous that led to them being heterotrophic. Are you there? So it's not something that is difficult. And also they lack cellulose cell wall. What they have is called chitin, not cellulose cell wall. Remember, plants have the cellulose cell wall. They are not plants, so don't confuse it from being plants. You know, we have other examples of fungi which include mushroom, which include yeast, the Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Do you understand? Which include the mucus, also called rhizopus. We have different species of rhizopus. We have rhizopus stolonympha. Are you there? And also you must know here that fungi reproduce asexually by spore formation. So you can see all of these. You must make sure you jot all these things down. All of these are the characteristics of fungi. And lastly, you must know about fungi is that fungi can be multicellular and as well as unicellular. The only fungi that is unicellular is called yeast. This must be noted. Are you there? So let us progress and analyze each of the options to get the answer to this question. And lastly, the type of environment fungi live is a wet or damp environment, which you can as well just say fungi lives in moist environments. So let's analyze option A and see which is not true of mucor or rhizopus, which is a fungi. Option A says grow on moist, dead organic matter. That's true because they live in moist environments. So they will grow in moist, dead organic matter. Definitely they will. Option B says they have cellulose cell wall. Is that true? No, I just said they don't have. What they have in replace of this is called chitin. This must be noted. So this is the answer to the question. Even if I'm not ready, since I've seen this, that is the answer. Option C says has no chlorophyll. That's true. Fungi have no chlorophyll. That's why they are heterotrophic in nature. And plants generally, they are autotrophic in nature. You must note that. And D reproduce asexually by producing spore, that is spore formation. Are you there? So let's get into the next practice question. Are you finding it difficult to solve questions like this in the Jamb exam? Look no further. Here is the solution to that problem. Here is the chemistry masterpiece written by me, a book with detailed explanation to different topics in chemistry, specifically focusing on chemistry calculations and as well as those key informations you need in the Jamb chemistry exam. For every topic you read, there are practice questions at the beginning of each topics in the chemistry masterpiece to actually test your knowledge on that particular topic you are studying. For more information getting the chemistry masterpiece, do well to direct message me via my WhatsApp number. It will be here on the screen. So question number 6 says, which of these is not an enzyme? Wow. Is pepsin an enzyme? Yes, it is. Pepsin is a proteinous enzyme. All right. It helps to convert proteins to peptones during breakdown of protein into its basic unit called amino acid. Pepsin helps to convert the protein to what we call peptone. This must be noted. Gastrin, which is option B, is it an enzyme? No, it is not. Gastrin is not an enzyme, it's actually an hormone. Are you there? This gastrin, which is an hormone, is found in the stomach. It is produced by cells in the stomach. We have different cells of the stomach, like the G cells, like the parietal cells. Are you there? So gastrin is the only option here that is not an enzyme, but rather it is an hormone. I believe you know what an hormone is. But before we progress, let's just analyze C and D. Amylase is a carbohydrate type of enzyme. So it's an enzyme. Same applies to chymotrypsin, is also an enzyme. For hormones, they are chemical substances produced by a special gland in the body called the endocrine glands. It is not the exocrine glands. Exocrine glands are different from endocrine glands. I already have a video on explaining the concepts of hormones, so it's important for you to go watch that video lesson. So this must be noted. Now this hormone, which is called gastrin, as I earlier said, it is produced by the G cells of the stomach. It has several functions, which include to aid digestion of food. You know, when the food passes through the mouth, down to the esophagus, down to the stomach, it helps to aid, facilitate food digestion into what? The small intestine. So all these must be noted about gastrin, which is an hormone and not an enzyme. So let's get into the next practice question, and it says, when the ciliary muscle of the eyes contracts, the eye lens, what happens to the eye lens? That's what they're asking. It's simple. We have to understand here that ciliary muscles, they are found in the eyes. Remember, the eye is one very key sense organ in the body. When you view the eyes internally, you see the internal structure of the eyes. You see that the ciliary muscle, covers the lens. And when it contracts, what does this mean? For a particular structure in the body contracts, it means it tightens. And I just said that it's found on, like, it bounds the eye lens. So when it tightens small, what do you think will happen to the eye lens? Something covers something, like bounce it, and it now tightens. It will make it become more round. I believe you understand what I mean. Like, as if the structure is bounding, is about to burst. So it bulges more, it becomes round. So the answer to this question is actually bulges. When the ciliary muscles actually, contract, it bulges the eye lens. And this helps in the process called accommodation for the eyes to actually view far and near objects. That's accommodation, and it is controlled by the ciliary muscles. So it can be flattened. Flattening will be the direct opposite, in the sense that when the ciliary muscles now relax, it makes the eyelids to be flattened. But when it contracts, it makes it to bulge more or become round. I believe you are following my point. It can be contract. No, it can be contract. It can be rotate. When it's contract, the eyelids can't rotate. Do you understand? So all this must be noted. Let's get into the next practice question. And the question says, in which of these association is much harm done to one of the partners. Wow. In biology, we have different types of association, and all of these association are actually built under one major association called symbiosis. What is symbiosis? Symbiosis is actually the relationship between organisms of the same or different species. But now, this symbiosis is divided into different types of association, which include commensalism, which include parasitism, and lastly, mutualism. So these three major are under symbiosis. So I believe you understand what symbiosis is all about. So it can be symbiosis because symbiosis is like the umbrella that covers all of them. So we'll go over to parasitism or commensalism to actually see the correct answer to this question, because they said that in this association, there's much harm done to one of the partners. For there to be a relationship, it's going to be between two, organisms. You understand? So, what's commensalism? I have to explain first before we choose the answer to the question. Commensalism is a symbiotic association between two organisms in which one of the organism actually gains and the other that partake in the relationship actually does not gain and also does not lose in any way. Do you understand? I'm just making it very easy. So that's commensalism. You have examples of organisms that actually undergo commensalism, and it is between shark and a fish called remora fish. The way it works is that when shark catch on prey and start eating the prey, now the remora fish then swims under the shark. You understand? They are very small fish, so it's very difficult for the shark to catch them. They swim underneath the shark, and the shark is actually going in the water. Then, as the shark is eating the prey, the remnant, the remora fish will be eating it.
So you can see that at the end of everything, the remora fish is gaining from the shark, but the shark is not gaining. So that's a good example of organisms that undergo commensalism. There are also other examples of organisms that undergo commensalism, and they include cattle and cattle egrets, and also include epiphytic plants and tree branches. You can see from the word epiphytic plants, they are also regarded to be called epiphytes. They are plants that grows on top of other plants. So you can see that they are actually gaining from the other plants, whereas these plants they are growing from are not actually gaining from them. So you can see that it explains commensalism. So all these must be noted.
Now, moving over to the next, which is called parasitism. So you can see in commensalism, the organism is actually one of the organisms gain and the other is not affected at all. But for parasitism, it has to do with a relationship whereby one of the organisms causes harm to another. So you can see the word harm. Actually, the answer to this question is option B. It is parasitism. It is not commensalism. It can be symbiosis as well. So you can see how it works. So also we have another which is mutualism, you understand? So let's get into the next practice question, which says, the digestive enzyme that coagulates protein to milk is called renin. Take note. So renin is still a proteinous enzyme. It helps in milk coagulation. So let's get into the next question, which is question number 10, and it says, the part of the brain responsible for maintaining balance is called the cerebellum. It is not called the cerebrum, but rather it's called the cerebellum. The cerebrum basically helps to control intelligence, consciousness, but for cerebellum helps to maintain posture and balance. So you can see how all this works. So let's get into the next practice question. And it says, which of these is not a type of soil? We have different types of soils, which include the sandy soil, the loamy soil, and as well as the clay soil. You understand? So you just look for the option there that is not any of these three I just mentioned, and it's called granite. Granite is not a type of soil. Okay, so let's get into the next practice question, which is, dash gland when affected leads to diabetes. The gland in the body, when affected and it leads to diabetes, is called the pancreas gland. Are you there? Pancreas gland. This must be noted, all right? The pancreas gland. All right, so you just take note of what I just said. The pancreas gland helps to regulate the blood sugar level. And this is done by two important hormones which are called insulin and glucagon. So when there is a problem with the cells of the pancreas gland, the cells are called the islet of Langerhans, which produces these two hormones called insulin and glucagon. When there is a problem with this cell, the ability of that cell to produce two hormones that helps to regulate blood sugar level. If it's high, an hormone will be released to reduce it. If it's low, another hormone will be released to increase it. When there is a problem with this gland, then diabetes will result. You understand? So this must be noted. So let's get into the next practice question. And the question says, the blood vessels which carries digested food from the small intestine to the liver is called. Now, it is very easy. We have two major blood vessels which are the artery and the vein. So listen carefully. There's something I'm about telling you that is very, very important. So first of all, if we observe carefully, from introductory circulatory system, you must know that the arteries carries blood away from the heart, whereby vein, the blood that they carry it towards the heart, that's back to the heart. So now let's understand this question. You can see now that the blood vessel which carries digested food, this digested food has dissolved already in the blood from the small intestine to the liver. So you can see that it's going from a part of the body, not the heart, to another part of the body as well. You understand? So the blood is away from the heart already. Remember we said that the function of the artery is just to take the blood away from the heart into the system. So you can see that the blood is already away from the heart. So the blood vessel that actually carries this digested food, which is already in the blood, from one organ of the body to another organ, is called the vein. Are you there? It is this vein that will not take the blood back to the heart and then it comes over again. You understand? But since it is dealing with the liver, the digested food is coming from small intestine to the liver. Anytime we hear liver, is going to be a type of vein called hepatic. Are you there? Hepatic. But now we are not done. There should be a word in between the hepatic and vein, and that word is called porta. So specifically, the vein that actually takes digested food from the small intestine to the liver is called the hepatic porta vein. I know you want to ask, why am I calling it porta vein? It is called porta vein because you can see that this blood is actually moving from the vascular bed. Listen carefully. The vascular bed of one organ to the other. If this blood is moving from the artery to the vein, we will not use the word porta. But now, since it's going between an organ and another organ, we call it porta. Are you seeing the difference? If we don't have to use porta, it's just going between artery and vein. But if it's going to be a porta vein or porta artery, then it's going to be between two different organs. Like saying in this case, between the small intestine and the liver, because the liver then will not take the blood back to the heart through the help of this vein as well. Do you understand? So that's how it works. Just know that the blood vessel that takes digested food from the small intestine to the liver is called the hepatic porta vein. It's actually very easy, it's not difficult. So let's get into the next practice question, which says, in an aerobic respiration, glucose is converted to. The question is very easy. When you hear about anaerobic respiration, something will come to your mind. It is a type of respiration that occurs with the absence of oxygen. And when there is no oxygen, glucose you are looking at will be converted to alcohol and carbon dioxide and also energy. But in the presence of oxygen, this glucose will be converted into carbon dioxide and water, and as well as energy. But now there is no oxygen, that is why it's called anaerobic. Glucose will now be then converted to alcohol, carbon dioxide and energy. This must be noted. So the products include number one, alcohol, another is CO2, and lastly ATP, which is called adenosine triphosphate which is the energy currency of the body. Remember, anaerobic respiration of two groups majorly, we have the lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. In lactic acid fermentation, it is lactic acid that is actually formed in replace of alcohol. But in alcoholic fermentation, it is alcohol that is being formed. But on general basis, we just say that anaerobic respiration leads to the formation of alcohol, carbon dioxide, and water. Also, you can also replace alcohol with lactic acid. That's what I'm saying, because you can see there I said that for anaerobic respiration of two groups, we have lactic acid fermentation where lactic acid is formed, and alcoholic fermentation where alcohol is formed as a major product, and these two other guys remains the same. I believe you are following. So let's get into the next practice question, which says, which hormone is produced during fright or when agitated? Very simple. It is called the adrenaline hormone. Adrenaline hormone is also called the epinephrine hormone. It is an hormone that is produced when there is fright, when someone is scared, when there is fight, and as well as flight. Let's say, for instance, you see a predator, then you have to run. So it is the hormone that actually controls you in that particular scenario that you can actually do wonders. You understand what I'm saying? So this must be noted. The answer to this question is adrenaline hormone, also called epinephrine. So let's get into the next question, which says, which of the following is not a function of the liver? So let's get into the next practice question, which says, in the enzymatic reaction, here is the reaction: starch producing sugar with the help of this substance. Now, first of all, we have to know what an enzymatic reaction is. Simple. From the word enzymatic, it is a reaction that is powered by an enzyme. And what is an enzyme? An enzyme is an organic biocatalyst that helps to speed up the rate of a reaction. You understand? Enzymatic reactions are simply reactions that are powered by enzyme. So for you to be called an enzymatic reaction, there will be an enzyme present to actually fasten this reaction, to actually make sure that starch is successfully converted to sugar. So I believe now you understand what an enzymatic reaction is. So let's move further to now read the question. That says, starch is referred to as. So in this reaction, what is starch referred to as? Now, in biology, in chemistry, the left-hand side of a reaction is called the reactant side, or the reactant, whereby the right-hand side is called your product. But in biology, it's not like that. In biology, the left-hand side of a reaction is called the substrate side. So that guy that is at the left is called the substrate. But your right hand side remains your product. Are you there? It's actually simple. Then I said that starch is referred to as. So starch is at the left. So option A, substrate. Option B, product. Option C, enzyme. Option D, reaction. The answer to the question is option A. Because I just said that those things that are found at the left, they are called the substrate. It can't be reaction because from here to here is a reaction. Everything is a reaction. It can't be enzyme because amylase is the enzyme. It can be product because sugar is the product. Are you there? It's actually very easy. So let's get into the next practice question, which says, the three main excretory products from plants are simple. They include number one, oxygen, number two, carbon dioxide, and number last, water. So you can see that these are the three main excretory products gotten from plants. Oxygen is actually gotten from the process in plants called photosynthesis. This must be noted. I believe whereby for carbon dioxide is gotten from the process in plant called respiration, and this water we just mentioned is gotten from the process in plant called transpiration. So all these must be noted. So let's get into the next practice question, which says, when plants lose water in form of vapor from their leaves, what is it called? Simple, is what I just explained. It is called transpiration. When plants lose water in form of water vapor from their leaf, what's it called? Transpiration. So let's get into the next practice question, which is question number 20, and it says, when plants lose water from their wounds, let's say the plant is just mistakenly caught, So that's a wound being formed. So when plant start losing water from this wound, the process is called bleeding. Take note. Take note of what I just said. It is very, very important. So moving further to the next question, which is question number 21, and it says the functional unit of the kidney, very simple, is called the nephron. Remember, we have two kidneys. Each of the kidney have approximately 1 million nephrons. Are you there? So without nephrons, the kidney is actually useless. So that is why the nephrons are very, very key components of the kidney. Are you there? So let's get into the next question, which is question number 22, and it says, when plants lose water in form of liquids, now they are losing water in form of liquid. Initially, they were losing water in form of vapor. When they lose water in form of liquid, it's called guttation. Take notes, it is very, very important. So let's get into the next question, which is question number 23, and it says, what causes kidney stone? Remember, kidney stone is one of the diseases that can affect the kidney. Kidney stone can be caused by a number of factors. Number one of them is low water intake. So it's very important for you to take sufficient amount of water daily. You must be hydrated. That's one factor that can cause kidney stone. Another can be imbalance of pH in the system. When the body is too acidic or too alkalinic, is not good for the system. The pH of the body should be in the normal state. Okay, imbalanced pH can cause it, or low water intake can also cause kidney stone. So all these must be noted. We've answered this. So let's get into the next question, which is question number 25. It says, what is cirrhosis? Now, this must be noted. This is a condition that affects the liver, and it's caused when there is damage to the liver, and then the liver cells that has been damaged will not be replaced by unwanted fibrous substances in the blood. You understand? So this will now lead to what now? Liver cirrhosis, and it is caused majorly due to excessive intake of alcohol. So all these must be noted. Let's get into the next question, which says, list 3 diseases of the liver. All right, number one of them is cirrhosis, which we just mentioned. Another is jaundice. Another is hepatitis. Are you there? So all these are diseases that can affect the liver. So let's get into the next practice question. The next question says, the outer layer of the skin is called the epidermis. The skin is divided into 3 major layers. 3 major layers. The outer, all of these is the epidermis. The middle layer is called the dermis, and the dermis has blood vessels in it. The dermis is made up of nerves. It's made up of glands. Are you there? So the outer is the epidermis, whereby the inner layer is called the hypodermis. The last layer is called the hypodermis, that is made up of subcutaneous layer, that has a subcutaneous layer which is made up of adipose tissues. Are you there? So all this must be noted. So the next one says, the layer of the skin made up of blood vessels. I already said it already. It is the dermis. The dermis has blood vessels in it, whereby the last layer is the hypodermis. Are you there? So what are the receptors of the skin? The skin also has receptors. We have pain receptors. Another receptor is the pressure receptor, which is called the Pacenia corpuscle. We have the touch receptor, which is called the Messenia corpuscle. Are you there? And it must be noted here that the pain receptor is also called nociceptors. So these must be noted. Let's get into the next question, which says, dash produces sebum. It is produced by a gland in the body called the sebaceous gland that helps to oil the hair follicle and the skin in general. So let's get into the next question, which says, dash produces sweat. So the gland in the body that actually produces sweat is simply called the sweat gland. Are you there? So let's get into the next practice question. Which says, the powerhouse of a cell, what's it called? It's simply called the mitochondria. Are you there? The powerhouse of a cell is called the mitochondria. So moving further, let's get into the next practice question, which says, which of the following produces both hormones and enzymes? Now, there is a gland in the body that does this function. That gland is simply called the pancreas. Take note, the pancreas is the gland in the body that has 2 major functions. It has the functions of endocrine glands and also the functions of exocrine glands. Initially, I explained that endocrine glands produces hormones and exocrine produces enzymes and other substances. But this pancreas has dual functions, two different functions. It has a function to produce hormones. What are the hormones? Insulin and glucagon. What are the enzymes that the pancreas produces? They are the amylase, protease, and lipase. Are you there? Amylase acts on carbohydrates. Protease act on proteins. Lipase act on lipids. Are you there? It's not helium, it's not gallbladder, it's not the kidney. These guys does not have two functions. Like for the helium now, is one part of the small intestine. The small intestine is divided into three major parts, which include the duodenum, jejunum, and as well as the helium. Are you there? So moving further to the next question, which says evidence that the tooth is a living part of the mammalian body can be found in. Actually, the living part of the tooth is called the pulp cavity. Are you there? So that's the answer to this question. It's not the gum or the cement or the enamel, which is the hardest part of the tooth. Are you there? That's what the enamel. So let's get into the next question. It says food in the stomach is called. The answer to this question is chyme. And this chyme is acidic. Why is it acidic? Because the stomach itself is acidic. As soon as you take this food through the mouth, it goes through a tube called the esophagus and then lands in the stomach. As soon as the food enters the stomach, it is called chyme, but specifically acidic chyme because the acid in the stomach is very concentrated, called concentrated hydrochloric acid. Are you there? So this must be noted. Whereby the next question says, food in the small intestine is called chyme. It is not called chyme, but rather chow. As soon as the food lands in the stomach and the gastric juice and everything in the stomach is secreted, and then it acts on the food, and the food then moves from the stomach into the small intestine. Are you there? As soon as the food enters the small intestine, the food is called chow. Are you there? Because it has a mix all of those gastric juice. Are you there? So this must be noted. And for this food to pass through the stomach down to the small intestine, it passes through a muscular valve called the pyloric sphincter. This must be noted. So let's get into the next question, which says, what are zymogens? Simple. Zymogens are inactive enzymes. Like this is a good example. There is an enzyme which is a zymogen and it's called pepsinogen. Most times, for us to know zymogens, their name always ends with no gene. Are you there? So this pepsinogen is actually an inactive enzyme. So what do we call them? We call them zymogens. Inactive enzymes are then converted to their active form, and the active form of this pepsinogen is called pepsin. And actually, what is to convert pepsinogen, which is inactive, to pepsin, which is active, it is done by a substance in the stomach, hydrochloric acid. Are you there? There are other examples of zymogens like trypsinogen. You can say, I told you, whenever the word ends with nogen, it's most likely going to be a zymogen. So trypsinogen should be converted to trypsin by a substance called enterokinase. Are you there? So enterokinase is what actually, does the function for trypsinogen to be converted to trypsin. I believe you understand what I'm saying. It is actually very simple. So let's get into the next practice question. There are other examples of zymogens. So we have like proinsulin, which is converted to insulin. So another way to know zymogen, they will start with pro, or their name will end with no gene. Are you there? So if you see any of these, it's most likely going to be a zymogen, which is an inactive enzyme or an inactive hormone. You understand? So that must be noted. So let's get into the next question, which says, what does lipase break down? Simple. From the word lipase, it breaks down lipids or fat and oil, which give rise to fatty acids. Are you there? So that's for that. Question number 38 says, what does erepsin break down? Erepsin helps to convert polypeptides to amino acid. This is how it works. It starts with protein. Protein will be converted to peptone. Peptone will be converted to polypeptide. and polypeptide will be converted to the last product, which is AA, called amino acid. So what converts this to this is called pepsin, whereby peptone to polypeptide is called trypsin. Are you there? Listen carefully. For peptone to be converted to polypeptide, trypsin is used. For polypeptide to be converted to amino acid, it is done by erepsin. Are you there? All of these are proteinous enzymes. So moving over to the next question, which says, what is the function of maltase? Very simple. Maltase is an enzyme. Another way to know enzyme, their name will end with ASE. That's another way to know them. Maltase basically helps to break down maltose to give us glucose and glucose. So maltose now is a disaccharide because glucose is a monosaccharide. So when we bring two monosaccharides together, it gives rise to a disaccharide. Are you there? So when we are breaking down maltose to give us two glucose units, glucose and glucose, the enzyme used is maltase. Are you there? If it was lactose, another disaccharide, it gives rise to what we call glucose and galactose. This is what I mean. For lactose, it gives rise to what we call glucose and galactose. So glucose and galactose, they are monosaccharides. Are you there? It's actually simple, whereby for sucrose, if you want to break down sucrose, it gives us glucose and fructose. And the enzyme used is called invertase. Are you there? It's actually very easy. So let's get into the last practice question. So if you find my video lesson helpful, make sure you click the subscribe button to my channel. Also share my videos to your friends, okay? It's very, very important. It will help you or improve greatly in biology. So let's get into the next practice question, which says, food leaves the stomach into the small intestine via, I think I've said that initially, the stomach then goes to the small intestine. There is something that actually opens, that the food actually moves from the stomach to the small intestine. It's called the pyloric sphincter. It is a muscular verb on description. It's a verb that opens called the pyloric sphincter. Are you there? The pyloric sphincter is what opens, that allows the food from the stomach to go into the small intestine. After absorption of nutrients through the villi in the small intestine, the undigested waste product then goes into the large intestine, which is the colon, and then it's actually passed as feces. Are you there? So all this must be noted. So we've come to the end of this video lesson. If you find my video lesson helpful, make sure you click on the subscribe button to my channel. Also share my videos to your friends. Thanks for watching. Are you finding it difficult to solve questions like this in the Jamb exam? Look no further. Here is the solution to that problem. Here is the chemistry masterpiece written by me, a book with detailed explanation to different topics in chemistry, specifically focusing on chemistry calculations and as well as those key informations you need in the Jamb chemistry exam. For every topic you read, there are practice questions at the beginning of each topics in the chemistry masterpiece to actually test your knowledge on that particular topic you are studying. For more information getting the chemistry masterpiece, do well to direct message me via my WhatsApp number. It will be here on the screen.